Blog Talk Radio.
For the next couple of hours, join us as we explore the imagination, the intuition, the inner realm, the inner world, winding our way into our discovery of the fifth dimension. What it is, what it means, how it looks, how it feels. Discovering new, broader perspectives of life as humans on the earthly plane. A journey within, a journey into a new, yet ancient frontier. A journey into the heart. The journey of our lifetimes. So please allow reason to coexist with your intuition, with inspiration, with your imagination. And join me in the discovery of more and more of ourselves. I promise you a journey unlike any other. Let us together explore the mystical, the amazing, the magnificent world of heart-based living in the fifth dimension. Welcome to the Consciousness Evolution Hour with your host, Philip Mollica. And a most fond and lovely good evening to all of you. This is Philip Mollica, and you're tuned in to the Consciousness Evolution Hour on Rob Gauthier's Enlightenment Evolution Network. I'm very excited to be here tonight. There's so much happening, so many good things rolling around, so many things changing so fast, accelerating. I have lots to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about my weekend trip to Connecticut and New Hampshire for the fall group session for Elias. It was the Elias Fall Group Session held near Mary Ennis's home in Connecticut or New Hampshire. We were right across the line from each other. You cross the bridge and you're in one state, and then you go to another bridge and you're across the bridge, you're in the other state. And either the group session was in New Hampshire and Mary's in Connecticut, or vice versa. I can't remember exactly which, because it's all crazy, like these big mountain hills, and you go in circles to get everywhere. And out of our hotel, you could turn either way out of the hotel and get to Mary's house the same way. One way you cross the bridge and another way you didn't. I don't understand. I completely out of sequence, out of time. The whole thing was just, it was like walking into another dimension. Very, very strange, but very fun. We had a fall group session on Saturday. It was absolutely lovely. And then Debbie and I had a face-to-face private session with Mary Ennis and Elias on Monday morning. And that was a most amazing experience. Truly, truly amazing. Brings tears to my eyes, brings me to my knees. It was that beautiful. So, we're going to talk about that a bit. I'm going to tell you about that. And we're also going to, as we move on later in the show, we're going to talk about the 5 laws of creation, the laws of the universe, because that's going to give us a lot of fodder around those 5 laws. Because my job here, as I'm talking to all of you, is to show you, not just to tell you, but to show you how to move in alignment with the universe, in alignment with creation. Because once you get in that stream, once you get in that flow, your life will never, ever be the same. And I realized I've been talking about this since the show started back in March of this year. I've been talking about this, but I've been talking in very guarded terms. Because I didn't want anyone to feel left out or badly or behind. And I understood because really the journey has accelerated so much in the last 6 months for me. I don't even recognize where I was before that. It's like a blur. It's like a whole completely different life, and it's changed that fast. But my job here is to show you what I've been doing and how it's been working for me and my partner, Debbie. Hello, my dear. I love you so much. How we've been moving together and moving into the new framework of the fifth dimension, allowing ourselves to be in alignment with the universe, alignment with creation, and allowing that energy to flow through us in order for us to create the world of our preference. Ah, that's so sweet. I just got a nice text. My dear is not with me tonight. She's actually back in Long Island with her kids. And that reminds me, a quick shout out here. Most wonderful happy birthday wishes to Lily Jacobson. Turns 11 today. Happy birthday, Lily. Gonna enjoy your gift. You got it coming tomorrow. And most happy birthday to you. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to, well, first let me tell you where you can find me outside of Blog Talk Radio. The most important and place I'm at the most, spend the greatest deal of time and energy with, is on Facebook, a group I have there called the Consciousness Evolution 2.0 group on Facebook. And every Thursday night at 9 p.m. when I come on, a number of them get together over there on the thread that has the show, and they have a running conversation about the show, which is always a lot of fun. And hello, everyone in Consciousness Evolution 2.0. My love to you. Thank you for tuning in and being here and being who you are. Being a part of my life, part of my joy, my excitement. So look us up if you're on Facebook. There are over 3,000 members, folks. 3,000 members in the Consciousness Evolution group. And there is a core group of people there that I share my heart with. And everyone's very sharing and open and lovely and beautiful and such magnificent expressions of the entities that they represent. And I'm so pleased to share this journey with all of you. And all of you listening tonight as well, regardless of where you are. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. So, you can find me on Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube, my YouTube channel. Look up Consciousness Evolution or Philip Mollica, and you'll find my channel. Great news is, as of November 15th, I believe, I'm going to be able to post longer videos again, which means I'll be posting archives of my shows. And in addition to the 2 Seth Book session-by-session videos that I have up there for your listening pleasure. In other words, you can listen to sessions read from Dreams, Evolution, and Value Fulfillment, Volumes 1 and 2. By the way, Seth and Elias and Bashar and Abraham are all here. They're all tuned into me, or I'm tuned into them, or we're tuned into the same data stream. And my partner, Debbie, as well. Thank you so much, my dear. A lot of energy coming through me. I'm very pleased to be able to be a conduit and a facilitator for this work that we're doing and to bring this message to you. So, but anyway, you can find me on YouTube at my YouTube channel. I will be posting new Seth readings. I'm not sure which book I'm going to be doing next, but we're going to pick another one. Debbie and I have been reading 2 books to each other. I've been reading The Individual and the Nature of Mass Events from Seth, Jane Roberts, reading that aloud to both of us, and Debbie's been reading The Nature of the Psyche aloud to both of us. We've been taking turns reading sessions, and the amount of information, it's as if we're reading the books anew from the beginning, never seen before, because the information is so much more. I read them all twice before, and it was an amazing journey each time. I read them twice in 2 years, all 8 of the main Seth books. Amazing journey each time. And this one, once again, excuse me, even though we're out of sequence, we didn't start at the beginning, each reading through brings such new enlightenment, brings such new ideas to bear, because now we're not only thinking about all of this and trying to get our minds wrapped around it, we're actually doing it. We're actually living it. And this is my job here with you, is to show you how I'm living it, how I'm living it with my partner, Debbie, the path that we're on, the roles that we're taking, and to show you that it's possible, to show you an example of how the laws, the ideas, the concepts, the thoughts, the processes work, how it works. Not how it should work, not how you hope it works, how it is working. As I was saying before, I used to be sort of guarded about it, but I think it's time to leave that all behind. There's lots of people that are still dabbling in around the ideas and concepts of this without actually throwing themselves into it. I think at least the folks that are tuned in here, listening here, want to hear how it works. They want to know that it does. And that's what I hope to share with you. So, we're going to run the, one more place you can find me. We have a live meetup in Clarkston, Michigan, which is southeast Michigan. We're about midway between Detroit and Flint. Still considered the Detroit suburbs, though. And we have a little hippie hangout called the LA Cafe on the first and third Tuesdays of each month. We get together at 6:30 p.m. for a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours. And we have a live meetup. In the last 2 meetups we've had, over 25 people at each one. Over 25 people in the little hippie hangout, buying hippie food and drinking hippie drinks, and all of us talking about our experiences of our newfound beingness. We went around with and recited miracles, because really that's what this all is. It's a series of miracles when you allow it to be. But you can find us there. Go to meetup.com. That is meetup.com. And look for the Consciousness Evolution Humanity's Future group on Meetup. Over 350 members there. And as I said, the last 2 meetings, we've had over 25 people at each meeting. We've got another one coming up this coming Tuesday They're a great time to get together with people who think alike. I'm telling you, the people that are showing up there are bringing their A game, folks. These are people who are connected, who are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, people with great purpose and intent. And the further we move into the shift, the further along we go, the more people we're going to find. We're finding each other. We're locating each other. This has been going on for 5 years that I know of, and it's been getting stronger every time, every moment. It seems like almost every interaction I have is something around spiritual ideas. Because really, what else is there? I had an interesting conversation today, and we're going to talk about that some more when we can come back from announcements. But right now, we're going to listen to our own lovely Karen Newman, who was kind enough to prepare announcements for us. We've got about 8 minutes of all the shows that are on the Enlightenment Evolution Network, Networks 1 and 2. Karen's going to go through those for you, and then I'll be back, and we're going to take off for the stars, baby. All right. See you in a few minutes.
Hi, this is Karen Newman from the show About Oneness, and here's what's coming up on the Enlightenment Evolution Networks 1 and 2, starting on Monday, October 27th until Sunday, November the 2nd. Simply put, Rob Gauthier, founder of the EEN and the host of the show that started it all, the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, has put together the greatest metaphysical radio network ever. 7 days a week, we have shows that will aid you on your path to enlightenment, evolution, and ascension. On EEN1, Mondays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Heart to Heart Talk Radio with your host, Daniel Scranton. Join Daniel and his featured guests discussing a wide variety of metaphysical topics. Daniel channels the Creators, the Hathors, Ophelia the Fairy, and Archangel Michael, and the latest, the Unicorn Collective. Daniel and his guests will take phone calls and questions, and it's sure to generate high-frequency discussions. You can find more about Daniel at his website, danielscranton.com, and also on Facebook. Go to the Events tab on Daniel's website to learn more about Daniel's upcoming events. On Tuesday at noon, also 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, please join hosts Megan Crandallmeyer and Rachel Archelaus for Radio Inspiration, Expression, and Abundance for their show Soulfulpreneur. Spiritual business specialists Rachel and Megan will bring you inspiring conversations with people who are living their soul purpose. Frequent guests include psychic mediums, channelers, coaches, artists, and authors. They end every show with psychic readings and business coaching. Your questions about your spiritual business or life purpose journey are welcome. Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, is the show that started it all, the Enlightenment Evolution Hour with host Rob Gauthier. Rob channels Treb on the first Wednesday of each month and will take callers' questions. On the third Wednesday, we'll have special guests such as guest channelers and other metaphysical teachers. The other 2 Wednesdays are freestyle call-in shows to discuss whatever callers have on their minds. Tune in to Rob on Wednesday nights, and you can also find him at trebchanneling.com and on Facebook at the Enlightenment Evolution Network group page. Rob has 2 special announcements. Starting on Sundays from September 14th, trebchanneling.com offers hour-long meditation classes. Please go to trebchanneling.com to register. Another project near and dear to Rob's heart is the much-anticipated sequel to the groundbreaking film Tuning In, called Tuning In Now. The movie will feature channelers such as Daryl Anka and Bashar, Lee Carroll and Cryon, and our very own Rob Gauthier and Treb. Tuning In Now will explore the amazing work of today's top channels and how they are helping to awaken the consciousness of the planet. The film is in fundraising stages at the moment, and with a contribution for as little as $15 all the way up to $50, you can help make sure that this film is made. Please go to Indiegogo.com, that's Indie, I-N-D-I-E, Gogo, G-O-G-O.com, and type in the search Tuning In Now 2. That's the number 2. Tuning In Now with the number 2. On Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, join host Philip Mollica with the Consciousness Evolution Hour. Join Philip and his special guests and co-hosts as they discuss the shift, ascension, timelines, metaphysical concepts, and the fifth dimension. Find Philip at the Consciousness Evolution 2.0 group page on Facebook and on YouTube. On Friday, The Earth Experience with your host, Kalina Angel, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. The Earth Experience explores our soul's expansion through our human experience on Earth. Kalina will help you to navigate and expand through the exciting confusions that we are manifesting as new 5D beings. On Sundays, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific, join me for my show, About Oneness. About Oneness is a weekly radio program focused on celebrating the ongoing conscious awakening of our planet and our realization of oneness. My guest on November the 2nd is Robert Atkinson, author of Mystic Journey, Getting to the Heart of Your Soul's Journey. Robert Atkinson is a PhD and an internationally recognized authority in helping people to tell their life stories. He is the author of 8 books, professor of human development and religious studies, and the director of the Life Story Center at the University of Southern Maine. He will be live taking callers' questions. If you would like to learn more about my upcoming guests, as well as see many videos of channelings and teachings, you can go to aboutoneness.com. On the Enlightenment Evolution Network 2, join host Victoria Vives every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, hosting Earth Sky People Radio, your bridge between heaven and earth. Subjects will include planet Earth becoming part of an intergalactic society, star seeds and extraterrestrial life, living in oneness with one another, with Mother Earth, and with life beyond the Earth, the Interstellar Alliance, also known as the Galactic Federation of Life, music, frequency and sound healing, question and answer interviews, shamanism, ancestral wisdom and the star nations, self-sustainative and regenerative living, and much, much more. Please go to victoriavives.com/radio, where she has details about the show and the network. Victoria's guest on the 28th of October is Core Love, the man that's had 300 near-death experiences. On Saturday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, the Pied Piper and Texas Rebel hosting the show, Disclosure Now. Disclosure Now is the On the Edge of Our Seats show that covers all topics of disclosure, from the world's most famous and obscure UFO cases to cryptozoology, conspiracies, and all things that go bump in the night. Pied Piper started his journey in Michigan in 1993 as a preteen seeing Bigfoot and never could get enough in investigating all things paranormal. Texas Rebel is a wild Texas man who loves the same journey and has studied these things for years. Join them as they cover all things in the human experience that just cannot be answered by anyone. Starting on Sunday, November the 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, The Resonance Intention, hosted by Neil and Sol Gar. The Resonance Intention show is dedicated to all things frequency and vibration. They showcase conscious musicians who infuse frequency into their music and have set out to uplift and raise the vibration of humanity through their music. They will have in-depth conversations with various artists about their passions, purpose, and personal journey that led them to where they are now. Additionally, they will routinely feature guests discussing the topics of free energy technology and the quantum modalities and technologies that are now coming into existence. The Resonance Intention is a platform for artists, musicians, and adventurers to increase awareness of their personal approach in order to contribute to the paradigm shift we are currently within. And remember, you never have to miss any show on the Enlightenment Evolution Network 1 or 2. All shows are available to listen to again immediately after they air on playback. All right, back to the show.
And back to the show we are. Welcome back. This is the Consciousness Evolution Hour. I'm your host, Philip Mollica. I had to chuckle. Victoria Vives is having a guest on who's had 300 near-death experiences, and I had to chuckle. And no, disrespect meant, of course, and we talk about near-death experiences all the time, it's just the idea that we are literally created anew in each and every moment. We literally come and go from our bodies from here and are many, many places at once. In fact, we are, in a sense, everywhere at once in the known universe and beyond. The reason for that is because we are all a part of all that is. We are a spark that comes from Source. And we embody all the properties of that Source. But what I wanted to do was talk to you about a cab ride I had today. It was a real funny situation. Coming back from the Elias session, I was actually driven down to Long Island and was flying back from LaGuardia, and we drove out to Connecticut for the Elias session, and we had a great idea. We parked my car at the Quick Park near the airport because we knew I was flying back. We drove out together, and Debbie stayed out there with the car, and she's coming back later, and I flew back on Tuesday. So we parked my car at the Quick Park so I could go run over there and grab my car, and I'd be all set. I wouldn't need a ride home. And so we left my car there and headed out. When I flew back, as I walked out of the airport terminal, I realized that I had grabbed everything except my set of keys to my car, which we had been using, which was attached also to the key to the pickup. And so there I was in Detroit at Metro Airport with no keys to my car, which was less than a mile away, and 50 minutes from home. So, joy, joy. I got to take a cab home. And that was all worked out fine. I didn't worry about it too much. Debbie overnighted my keys, which I got today. And I called a cab, and I got a ride back to the airport to get my car. And as I got picked up at about 1, and the gentleman who was driving the cab was a former preacher, was a preacher. As our conversation got going, and he was just talking about various things and said something about God. And he said, actually, he had been in an accident on Tuesday. Really a terrible accident. He lives in Highland, and he got broadsided by someone who ran a red as he and his daughter were coming out of the McDonald's. And they got hit pretty good, but he just had a bump on his head, and his daughter seemed to be okay, but their car wasn't so good, and neither was the other drivers. And he'd kind of been in a daze after that happened. And I'll mention his name. Hello, Keith, if you're listening. Keith suggested that he might be listening in tonight. And Keith made me promise that if I used his story and his name, that I would mention to everyone that about the dangers of texting and driving. So consider that mentioned, Keith, and I appreciate your allowing me to use our story. So somehow the conversation turned to God or an Almighty as they had this horrible accident and relatively unhurt. But Keith was kind of dazed, and he went home after the accident, and he slept, and then he got up and thought he was getting ready for work the next morning, but it was only 8 o'clock that night. So he shook that off. And then the next day he did the same thing, and he says he kind of really only snapped out of it today. And we were talking about God and how God, protects and that type of thing. And I said, I really don't talk about anything but God. The idea of divinity, the idea of a force in the universe that is based on love, that is working in our favor. And we had quite a conversation on the way down. We talked about a great many things. I didn't have the heart to tell him that he probably did die and got plunked back to do it again. And he said that things seemed different. Yeah, you kind of left in the old other world, that other parallel world, and you plunked into this one, and you're in a good spot. This is a pretty good world to be in. May not look like it sometimes. Depends on where you're looking and where you're placing your attention, I guess. But we really had a wonderful conversation around a lot of these ideas of how everything happens in greatest service. And he suggested, before I was able to, suggested that perhaps what happened to him, he was on his way with his daughter, by the way, to pick up his mother, who's old and somewhat ailing. And he suggested that perhaps them getting in that accident may have prevented something from happening that would have even looked worse. And I was kind of astounded when he said it, because we hadn't really talked about anything along these lines up to that point. But the moment he said it, I chuckled and I said, there is so much more truth to that than perhaps you even realize. Because everything that happens with great purpose and happens for a reason. So we had a lovely conversation along those lines, and at the end, Keith wanted to know about the radio show, because I told him I did a podcast that was around spiritual, metaphysical ideas, and that I would like to use his story just to illustrate this idea that something that happens that could be potentially very bad in that sense, if you look at it that way, may have actually prevented something much worse from happening, or I guess in those terms, better or worse is very relative. But it brought to mind my idea about going with the flow of things, and so we talked about that some more as well. And really, this is kind of the basic idea around this whole concept of shifting, of raising our frequency, of getting in tune with the universe, of getting in tune with creation, of aligning ourselves in such a way that we allow creation to work for us. Because it's not just a bunch of hooey, it's not just wishful thinking. The system works. It is, as Bashar might say, simple physics. How is it physics, one might wonder? Well, let's look at it for a moment. Let's imagine for a moment that creation is this huge computer. And that computer doesn't think in that sense. In other words, it doesn't judge what we do. Call what we ask for good or bad. It just gives us whatever we give it. In other words, if you want to get data out of a computer, you have to put data into it. So if creation is this big computer and it's just responding to the input we give it without judgment, simply responding at whatever level we are interacting with it with. Now let's assume for a moment that this computer, though, even though it doesn't think and doesn't judge, that it will always serve us to the best of its ability to give us what we're asking for. Give me one moment. So let's assume that this computer is bent in our favor. Let's say that it's leaning in our favor. So if you had to round a number and you were going to round it down or up, let's say the computer would round it up for you. Always. It's always going to be in your favor. So you've got this computer program and you're feeding it input, you're feeding it data. And that computer is going to respond to you regardless, without judgment, regardless of what you feed it, it's going to reflect back to you what it thinks you are asking for. So now think in terms of thoughts, feelings, emotions, frequency. If what we are feeding into the computer is negative, the computer is not going to change our program. It's not going to judge it as bad and change it. It's not going to give us something different than we asked for. It's going to respond to us in exactly the way we input our data. This is what's called the law of attraction. So if you feed the computer negative data, you're going to get negative data out. Not only are you going to get negative data out, but the computer is going to mess up all the damn time. You're going to have to reboot it. It's going to be slow. It's going to run out of disk space. It's going to have errors. You're going to get viruses. Because that's what happens when we're out of alignment and we try to feed data into the computer. The data gets all wonky before it gets in, so then it causes all kinds of problems. Now, the other side of that is that if you feed positive data into the computer without judgment, it is going to give you positive feedback back. Plus, because you're in alignment, because you're not moving against creation or against the universe or against your natural resonant frequency, everything's going to work very smoothly. Very smoothly. Your feedback is going to be exactly what you're looking for. It may not look exactly the way you think it might look when you first think of it, but you're going to get it back one way or another in a very positive fashion. Because remember, this computer doesn't judge, but it does round up. That's the flaw. It was a processor flaw. They didn't know what to do with it. Intel didn't have a fix for it. So the computer always rounds up for you, for me. And when we're in alignment and we're interacting with the computer, we're going to get a nice flow in and out of the computer. It's going to work smoothly. It's going to be virus-free. It's going to run without errors. It's going to run fast. Lots of space, lots of RAM. Big quad-core processor. it's going to work for us. So this is the idea of bringing yourself into alignment with yourself, because when you bring yourself into alignment with yourself, you're bringing yourself in alignment with creation. Talk for a moment about some of the biggest tripping points that people have. People have the most trouble with. And I have the greatest compassion for everybody who is going through this, because in one sense, it's very, very difficult to let go of the old training. It can be very frightening, because it's what we're used to. It's because it's what we were taught. It's because it might be all we know. One of those things we were taught and trained to believe is in an idea called cause and effect. Cause and effect. You do one thing, something else happens. Everything has a reason, has a source, has a, how do I put this? Everything has every effect has a causal relationship. In other words, nothing happens that isn't preceded by something else happening. And this idea of cause and effect can limit us in the use of our awareness of our imagination and how the universe can serve us. Now, I want to keep this very, very simple. I want to make it easy to understand, because, again, it's simple physics. So sometimes some of the phrases I use, the words I use, all of a sudden I know I lose you. So I want to keep this very simple. Keep the idea very concise. But when you stay in alignment, well, let's go back to the idea of cause and effect. So cause and effect is how we've based not only most of this life, but eons of our incarnational lives. Because in this civilization, we decided to explore the idea of tools. Tools being objects outside of us. And we convinced ourselves so well of the idea that everything in our outer created reality, in our physical reality, everything we see, touch, hear, smell, taste, feel, that everything out there is all there is. The dream state is just some subjective state that we happen to have, where our brain goes to play while we're sleeping, while our body's sleeping and our mind is sleeping. But the fact is that what we call our dream state is our true state of being. Because, and I'm going to back up here because I want to explain this. The reason that's our true state of being is because each one of us, every single one of us, as I started to say before, is a spark of all that is. And we have all the properties, all that is, source, God, whatever you want to call that power, that greater power. All of us are a spark of that, and we have all the properties of that. Not only do we have all the properties of that, we are so much a part of God or source or all that is that we cannot be separated from that. Created a physical reality that we have an experience in, and the reason we do that is because all that is experiences itself as us. In other words, all of creation is all just one big thing. It's the same thing. And everything that we observe, everything that we are, is simply all that is experiencing itself from a different perspective. Our perspective. Your perspective, and your perspective, and your perspective, and my perspective, and everyone else's perspective. And the rocks, and the water, and the trees, and the planets, and the earth, and the squirrels. Gotta love the squirrels. Everything that we see is an aspect of all that is, or God, or Source, experiencing itself from a different perspective. There is nothing that is not alive in those terms, because everything springs from that same source and is imbued with all the properties of that source, because it is never separated from that source. You are as much a part of God as God. What we've done is we've created an experience here where we come and pretend that we're not. We pretend that we're separated from God, that we're separated from Source. And we've created a reality so convincing, a physical reality so convincing, that we actually believe that God exists somewhere apart from us, somewhere outside of us. Cannot be. All we've done is objectify in God and demons and angels and devils. All we've done is objectify portions of our own psyche, and we projected them out onto the landscape so that we can walk around them and kick the tires of them and see what they look like. We've done it for eons, never understanding that all those things were parts of us that we just hadn't assimilated yet. So let's go back to the idea of cause and effect. So cause and effect means if I do one thing, something else happens. And everything has its source in the physical world. That couldn't be more wrong. It is not the way things are, truly. You know why? Because we've created it to look this way. Remember the computer? Computer gets something in, it gives you the same thing back. Consider this. You are the creator of your experience in physical reality. And everything that you see revolves around beliefs that you have. Beliefs that you hold about the nature of this physical reality that you've created. So in other words, you've created it, and then you've given yourself a veil, and you've covered it up, and you've said, okay, now I've forgotten that I created this, and now I'm going to have an experience of it as if I don't know what it's all about. Because that's how physical reality is. So if you give yourself the idea of cause and effect, you will create the cause, you will create the appearance of cause and effect in your life. In other words, everything that happens, if you believe in cause and effect and forego the idea of imagination, intuition, of anything that is outside of cause and effect, if you believe that the world exists purely on cause and effect, you will yourself create the circumstances, events, and details that make that so, that make it appear to you to all be explainable through the idea of cause and effect. Now, the other side of that is that if you understand how the machine works, how the computer works, give me a moment. Thank you. If you understand how the machine works, you'll know that if you start feeding the computer different data, you're going to get a different response. So let's look at some other ideas that are different from the idea of cause and effect. One idea is that our universe is created from the inside out. In other words, everything that exists in physical exists first in non-physical, and it's all created by us as a reflection. You see, physical reality is really just a mirror, and it mirrors whatever we send out. Now, we have a shared experience, but that is through agreement. The collective has chosen to have this shared physical experience, and we've accepted as part of that certain basic ideas. We'll call them root assumptions, as Seth would refer to them. Root assumptions about physical reality. One of those would be gravity. Another one would be time. And another one would be space. These are all root assumptions. Now, we're in a time now that's unlike any other. We're in a point of history where the whole framework is changing. We're beginning to remember who we really are. We're beginning to remember our hand in the creation of this outer physically created reality. We're beginning to remember that we are the architects. Not only are we the architects, we are not bound to those same root assumptions that we fully accepted before. We are not bound to space. We are not bound to time. We are not bound to gravity. Those are constructs, as Elias would say. They're constructs that are part of our acceptance of this outer created reality. And we can, if we so choose, allow ourselves a different perspective of creation, different than cause and effect. How do we do that? And you will prove it to yourself. And in fact, it's the only way that you will ever know it, is by simply allowing yourself to have the experience of doing it. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to convince you to allow yourself to have an experience of the bigger you. We all have beliefs around what's possible and what's not possible. I'm here to tell you that there is nothing that is not possible. In fact, if you can think it, then it's more than possible, it's probable. In fact, it's more than probable, it exists somewhere. If you can think it, that's how powerful you are. If you can imagine it, it exists right now. Because you are an aspect of creation. You create your experience. You are that powerful. You are. So when you can start allowing yourself to have a different experience of physical reality, allow yourself, instead of depending on the idea of cause and effect, to allow yourself to know, this is a big leap of faith, to allow yourself to know that everything is meant to work out for you. Because there's this stream, folks. There's a stream of creation. And if you can get into that stream, carry you. If you can allow the existence, allow the possibility of everything working out for you, then it will be done. It has no choice, because you are the creative force behind your experience. And the universe is poised, creation is poised in your favor. So when you allow yourself to be the creative person, the creative God that you are, allow yourself to have not control over the events and circumstances and details so much, but control over how you see them and your attitude, your frequency around those ideas of what happens to you. Instead of thinking that you're a victim, that things happen to you, if you can know your own hand in creation, then you can get into that stream and allow it to carry you. But that's really one of the biggest tripping points, the idea of cause and effect, which immediately brings, if you believe in cause and effect, then you believe in victimhood. Because you will say that everything that's quote-unquote bad that happens is outside of you, is something over which you have no control. Makes you a victim. Puts you at the mercy of nature, the mercy of elements, at the mercy of God, when you understand who you really are. You'll realize that you are not separated from the elements. You are not separated from nature. And you are definitely not separated from God. So it requires a release, excuse me, it requires a release of the idea of cause and effect, which requires you to use your imagination and your intuition. As opposed to your logical reasoning mind. We talked about this a little bit last week, but I want to cover it quickly again. When something happens to you, some event happens, our training is to immediately apply our reasoning, logical mind to that occurrence and find a reasonable explanation for what happened. In other words, a cause and effect idea. If you can bring your mind out of that, at least have it ease up a bit and allow yourself an awareness of events, details, and circumstances that do not necessarily have to be part of an idea of cause and effect, you leave some room. And it only takes a little bit of room. You just need to leave the tiniest bit of room for everything that happens. And you know what you're leaving room for? You're leaving room for magic. And I guarantee you, I absolutely guarantee, if you leave a little room for magic, magic is what you will find. Because the world is magical. You know why it's magical? Because we created it that way. But because it's a computer, if we feed it the idea of cause and effect, it's going to give us a cause and effect answer. If we feed it the idea of magic and miracles and beauty and love and goodness and kindness and wonder, it will happily give that back to us. But it just needs the teeniest bit of room. It just needs you to ease off your physical mind. Just tell your mind, just take it easy for a minute. Don't immediately leap to the idea of victimhood, of cause and effect, and allow just the teeniest bit of room for magic. And then watch the magic happen. Give us a moment. And thank you, I'm back. So the idea of magic happening it's available to us all. Just have to leave a little room for it. So the idea of cause and effect is one of the things that trips people up the most. The other thing is pushing everything outside of them, not understanding their own hand in things, and the idea of victimhood. Boy, there's another piece to that is very, very important. And I know we talk about this all the time, but it's worth talking about again. And that's the idea of being fully present in every single moment of your life, of your waking day, what we're calling the waking day, the waking dream. When you're fully self-aware in every moment, you begin to see more. And when you couple this with the idea of leaving a little bit of room in your reasoning and logical mind for magic, when you couple those two together, leaving room for magic and then being aware in the moment, all of a sudden you zero in. All of a sudden you're in the stream. And the idea of you being fully present and self-aware in every moment will allow you to see the magic as it comes to you. And there's one other little tricky piece there. Because what we are all trying to do is create the world of our preference. Our lives are constant idea of choosing, which is the whole idea of polarity on this physical world. It's choosing, preferred, not preferred, preferred, not preferred, preferred, not preferred. We go through our whole day making that choice. it is the yes-no choice that we talked about with Elias in group session last Saturday. We're going to get to that Elias session. We're going to wrap this up here and then get on to that Elias session. But it's the idea of the making the choice in each moment. The idea of saying yes or no and knowing why you're making that choice. Which is the whole idea of polarity, which is the whole idea of us having an experience here so we can create the world of our preference. But in order to do so, you need to be self-aware in each moment. And we can have a preference, and a preference is something we generally project into the future. In other words, we want something to look like one way and not the other way, but it, generally speaking, will be some future event or will be something that is right in front of us in that moment. And if you can maintain the idea that the path of least resistance is the path that's going to keep you in your best alignment, which then aligns you to creation, then in every choice you'll look for what I'll call the easy choice. I've found in my own life, if I have to struggle for it, if I have to try and try and try, if I have to work for something really hard. Now, I'm not opposed to hard work. I will work my ass off if it's something I love and I'm interested in and excited about. I love hard work in that sense. But if I have to work hard for something and it's bucking me, you know, we all know we try to do something. Use the computer as a perfect example. You know, when you try and do one simple thing and it takes you a frickin' hour, right? Because you got to do this, and then you got to do this, and then this doesn't work, and then that doesn't work. Or you're trying to do something online, and this website's messed up, and then this website's messed up, and the form doesn't work, and blah, blah, blah. And it just, you know, it's like never ending. When you get in that situation and you start to get frustrated, let it go. It wasn't meant to happen right now. And not only on the computer, you can treat your whole life like that. You can understand that the path of least resistance is the path of your alignment. And when you get into alignment with yourself, you're in alignment with creation because you are creation. And creation will bend over backwards to serve you when you're in alignment with it. Excuse me. So you just need to let it go. If it's hard, if it's not working, let it go. If you're fighting it, if you're getting upset, if you're getting ulcers and a headache, let it go. Take it up another time if you have to. But it wasn't meant to happen right now. You can begin to see that you'll be led perfectly. This is getting in the flow of creation. This is the idea of allowing yourself to lead yourself. Because you know what? You got this. You're not walking it alone. Not one of us is walking alone. Not one of us is walking alone. We all have teams, guides, guardian angels, whatever you want to call it. We all have teams working with us, looking out for us. But you have to have that awareness in each moment of what's going on. So when your teams show you something, when your guardian angel shows you something, you know what you're looking at and can act upon it. Because nothing happens without your action. But you have to be able to choose wisely. How do you choose wisely? Know that you're being led perfectly. And follow the bouncing ball. It's easy. Whatever shows up right now in this moment for you, that's what's meant to show up for you. Don't run away from it. Go straight at it. Guarantee you, no matter what it is, no matter what it looks like, it is there in your highest service. It is there because you asked for it to be there. So we all know what we want, and we project out these ideas about what we want it to look like. Forget them. Know what you want, but then once you know what you want, forget the whole thing. And then just be self-aware in each moment, and don't insist on it looking like it has to look a certain way or come to you a certain way or be a certain way. Just know and trust that creation and the universe and God are all working in your favor. And then just sit back and look for what's coming for you, because it's all good, I promise. I promise it's all good. Resist the temptation to call what appear to be unfortunate circumstances bad, and know that everything is in your best service, even if it doesn't appear so. And if something is causing you trouble, is giving you grief, it's all there for a reason. Run at everything that shows up. Run at it. Wow, is it there for you? And it's going to lead you perfectly. Now, I know what happens to a lot of people. I'm going to walk for a minute, so if I'm just going to stand up and walk around with my wireless headset and talk a bit. And if you would be so kind to let me know if if the sound gets wonky, I would appreciate it. I'll look on the consciousness group. Oh my, what a wonderful group. Oh, I love you guys so much. Thank you. Just let me know, folks, if the sound gets funny. Now I forgot where I was. Allowing yourself to be led perfectly, yes. Okay. So as things and circumstances happen around you, to you, events, people, avoid the temptation of calling it negative or positive. Because we've been given in this time now that we're in, this time that we're in, this part of the shift that we're involved in, we're been given an opportunity here, a real opportunity. There is so much stabilizing energy being sent to our world right now by every aspect of source that can do so. We're being sent stabilizing energy so that we can move through this time without risk so that as we make changes in our lives, that we can be supported in doing so. There is so much energy being sent to us. Those spirit guides from the off-world races. Bashar has ships. Essassani have ships poised over the earth, sending stabilizing energy through the vortexes to all of us to support us as we move into these new parts of our lives, these new roles, this new way of being. And I know a lot of people get hung up because they're afraid. If you believe in cause and effect, if you believe you're in victimhood, then you walk around fearful all day long. You walk around in fear because you think around every corner there's a boogeyman. Because you think your body is out to get you. It's deteriorating. Cancer waits around the corner. It's almost not a if, it's when. And if you harbor these kinds of fearful beliefs, guess what you're going to get? Remember the computer? Garbage in, garbage out, baby. It's all about our beliefs. Give yourself some space. Give yourself some reassurance that you're being looked out for and supported. Give yourself the courage to know that whatever you're led to is the right thing for you. Really hard for some people to hear who don't like their jobs or are unhappy with their family life. But they're afraid to move because they don't think they'll be supported, because they're used to the old ideas of cause and effect. They're used to the old paradigm. What are they going to do? How are they going to be supported? How are they going to live? We've all come here in great purpose. And this is the time. And this is the record of the time. You need not look around you at the world and worry that you will be affected by anything that you see. Because I'll tell you right now, the world appears to be in chaos. That's because the old 3D structure cannot sustain itself any longer. Because we've moved into a new framework, a new paradigm. We've moved into the shift. Actually, the framework hasn't changed at all, but our awareness of the framework has been up-leveled in awareness in that sense. The framework is the same framework because it's the same source. It's all that is, but we are aware of more now. We can be aware of more of who we are as Source discovers more of itself through us. All right, we might get back to that a little bit. I'm going to talk a bit about the Elias session. I wanted to share that with you. I know there were a lot of interested parties, people who wanted to hear about the group session and our private session. So let's talk about that a little bit. I'll tell you a little bit about our trip. This part's easy. It's all easy. Yes. So, we drove from Michigan to New Hampshire, Connecticut. I already explained that bit with you. Am I in New Hampshire? I'm in New Connecticut. I don't know. You go around in a circle and all of a sudden you're in a different state. I don't get it. It was like being completely out of time, it was like going into a vortex. So we drove out there Friday. We got there late Friday night, slept quick, and then headed over to Mary's, a friend of Mary's, Brian. Lovely Brian. Thank you very much for hosting us. And we sat around and chatted for a little bit, and then we gathered together in a large meeting room in the back of the house by the river. Beautiful place by the river, by the way. Absolutely gorgeous. Water gushing through. And just a lovely place. And then we all gathered in the group session in this room. And it was my first time meeting Mary Ennis and having a face-to-face with Elias. And, of course, I knew a lot of the people there from the Elias Forum and from various places on Facebook, and was very pleased to meet everyone there. It was really, really a pleasure to have a face-to-face with all of you. I know we share such a common goal, such a common purpose. And so we all gathered here, and we got together in the room, and Mary went into trance as Elias. And by the way, you can find more information about Elias at eliasweb.org. Excuse me, that's ELIAS web, WEB.org. You can find transcripts from 20 years of sessions there. And, I've read a lot of Elias transcripts in the last few years, and I have a great, great, great respect for Elias. Elias has been coined a continuation of Seth, and truly is the same energetic source. That's apparent when you're with it. Seth, Elias, Abraham, and now Bashar all maintain that same energy, feeling, a loving regard. And my impression as I was listening to Elias speak through Mary Ennis wasn't of speak. We sometimes jokingly refer to it as talking to a dead guy, because Elias, like Seth, did have physical existence, did have physical incarnations at one time. So we say talking to a dead guy, but it occurred to me that it was like talking to someone and listening to someone who was just like one of the most aware and caring individuals, someone who could envelope 30 people in their energy, see and feel every single one of them, and then deliver to them the information that was most helpful to every single person in that room. It was like talking to the super smart, intelligent person who's also extraordinarily loving. And the energy as it regards you. I was really fortunate enough in that group session. I sat right next to the camera and Venu, and I really had Elias's gaze come upon me many, many, many times, checking in with me. And Elias did that with every single person in the room. Checked in with them. You could just feel it's like, okay, you're getting this. This is landing. Okay, here's the next thing. Here's the next thing. The energetic flow of that session was extraordinary. And the idea that Elias talked about was the idea of the question or the answer, the choice of yes and no. And how important it was to understand the idea of the choice of yes and no, and understanding that it's the same thing. And then understanding not only why, or not only what your choice is, yes and no, in every moment, back to what we were talking before about being aware in each moment and making a choice. And this is the idea that you're constantly saying yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. Everything you do is a yes or a no. And the idea from Elias was, know why you're making the choice. Don't just make the choice because it's the choice you've always made. Know why you're making the choice. Stop doing the automatic thing. Because the automatic thing is what screws us up. Because we just mindlessly make the same choice we've always made because it's what we've always done, because it's what our mothers did, because it's what our grandmothers did, because that's the way it's done, because this is the way I was taught to. No, stop and think about your choice in every single moment. Now, Elias was quick to point out they weren't talking about how you brush your teeth necessarily. But to understand, to have an awareness of the choices that you're making. Because if you just simply have an awareness of the choices that you're making, you'll recognize that you are making a choice. And you can choose what you prefer. If you're not choosing what you prefer, then you have a belief wrapped around it that's making the other choice seem better. And then knowing your motivation for the choice that you make. If you know the motivation for the choice that you make, if you just take a moment and examine those choices, those yeses and nos, just take a moment and examine them before you render them and know what your motivation is in making that choice, you'll have a clearer understanding of how you're operating and why your life looks the way that it does. Because that's everything. That is physical life, is the yeses and nos. That is physical life. Every moment, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Why? Why is the question that you're looking for? Why are you making the choices that you're making? That will lead you straight into your beliefs. It'll lead you straight to the heart of the existence of your life. Tell you exactly why your life looks as it does. So we had 2 one-hour sessions with Elias in the group session. And that was, excuse me one moment. Excuse me, that was the crux of the discussion, based around that. So we had a lovely time, lovely group session, lovely people, so wonderful to meet everybody. just tickled. And after that, we broke and went back to Mary's house, Mary Ennis's house, again, which was around a big circle, across 2 states, and somehow, out of the hotel, no matter which way you turn, you get there, but yet you go over a bridge one way and don't go over the bridge the other way, and yet it's in a different state. I don't know. Really weird. But we went to Mary's house that night, and most of us that were at the group session went back there, and we partied for a little while and chatted and talked, and Mary's house is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Wow, everywhere you look, there's cool stuff. Dragons everywhere. Beautiful crochet that Mary does everywhere. Beautiful antiques. Rooms that were different colors, very strong, vibrant colors, and the whole room done in that color. Everyone so thoughtfully done. An amazing place. So we had a wonderful time that day, and then we went back. We had Sunday was a off day, and then on Monday morning at 8 a.m. Monday morning, yes indeed, Debbie and I went back to Mary's house, and we had our private session with Elias. And we sat with Mary and chatted for a little bit before we had our session. Had a very nice visit. And then Elias came in. We sat down for the session. Elias came in and talked to us. And it was one of the most profound hours I've ever spent. We came in looking for a very high-level conversation, and boy, oh boy, did we get it. I heard Elias talk with us about things that I've never heard Elias talk about before. And one thing that was affirmed for me was in the roles that Debbie and I are taking in the shift, and how we're going to move forward in a way that's never been done before. That we are going to show how a good deal of this is done. At one point, Elias told us, we were talking about off-world races and the Greys, and Elias told us that we actually had counterparts of us, other aspects of us, counterparts, physically living on another planet within our universe that we could literally, physically meet. Other us's on another planet within our universe living physically that we could meet. How cool is that? Now, that idea of extraterrestrials and off-world races was a very small part of our conversation, but that was very interesting. Very interesting to consider. And I will tell you one other thing about the private session. I'm going to have more to share about it another time. But I will tell you that at the end, Elias gave Debbie and I one of the most beautiful confirmations of what we are doing in our beingness. And he told us that he was blanketing us in his energy. and that it was a pleasure for him to speak with two glorious beings such as us. I was in tears. Mary snapped out of trance, looked at us, and said, oh, is everything okay? Everybody's in tears. We're like, oh no, it's all good. It's all beautiful. Very, very nice. She wasn't sure what to make of the tears. It was a beautiful send-off. And it's as if from that moment, everything shifted once again. It changed, became clearer. The energy's still so fresh. There's going to be a lot more to come on all of this idea. But we're really going to step into the roles of being showers. And by example, showing people how they can live the life of their dreams, of their preference. How they can come to know themselves as an aspect of creation, as an aspect of all that is, to know their power. I think that's a good place for us to wind up here. I want to talk to you for a moment about that. And then we'll wrap up for this evening. I want to convince you of who you really are. I want to convince you of the power that you hold within you to be everything that you came here to be. All the pieces are in place. I woke up from a dream 3 months ago and I said, everything is in place. Everything is ready. Blurted out of my mouth. It truly is. Everything is in place. Everything is ready. It's time to step into this, to know your power, to know who you truly are, to know that you are not a victim. Ever, ever, ever are you a victim. To know that cause and effect is a construct. To know that there is data around you all the time waiting to find you. Do you know that? Source, creation, all that is, all the good things that are looking for you are trying to find you. If they're not finding you, it's because they don't recognize you. Why wouldn't they recognize you? Because you're not being who you truly are. Because you are not being the being that you came here to be. The moment you decide to act in your authenticity, to be who you truly are, all those things that are looking for you are going to find you. Just don't expect everything to look a certain way. It will find you by the path of least resistance. It will find you through circumstances, details, and events that you cannot presuppose. because your physical mind does not know how to see into the future. Did you hear that? Your physical mind does not know how to see into the future, but your higher mind does. And your higher mind will guide you. So just allow your physical mind to gather the data of what you see, of what's in front of you, and allow your higher mind to guide you. Learn to hear yourself, your higher self. It's a place that you can connect to. We all know it because it's all operating all the time, but we're used to ignoring it because the physical mind wants to run the show. But the physical mind is not equipped to run the show. So find your authentic self. Be your authentic self. Take action that represents who you truly are. Because it's in the action that you show what your intention is. Everything is ready now. It's all in place. You just have to take the action. You have to choose through your yeses and nos how you're going to move forward. And if you choose in the path of least resistance, if you choose on the path that is most resonant with how you feel inside, you know how you feel inside. If it doesn't feel good, that's the wrong choice. Now, there are no wrong choices in that sense. You'll work around it. But it will slow you down. You want to get there in a hurry? We all do. Want to get there in a hurry? Start listening to the inner voices. Feel it within you. What's easy? What are you being led to? Everything that happens is a circumstance meant to serve you. Know it, trust it, believe in it. People talk about faith in God. Have faith in God. God is not outside of you. God is a part of you. He is within you. You are within Him. There is no separation. No separation. Allow it to express through you. Allow creation to express through you in your resonant frequency. Become your authentic self. Get into alignment with creation and allow the power to surge through you. Allow the energy to work through you to serve you. And in doing this, you serve all. You serve all of mankind. Some people say, oh, well, if I make these choices, that's very selfish. No, it's not. When you make the choices for you, you are in service to all of mankind. Because it's in those choices, be your authentic self, that you allow the creation's energy to flow. And it will flow through you to everyone that you come in contact with. Everything's in place. Everything is ready. It's just waiting for you. Allow yourself to move into the stream. Let go of the things that are holding you back. You've been hearing the same things for years. But when I tell you that everything is poised for you now, all the energies are lined up, everything is here to support you now, have trust, have faith, have a knowing, and allow it to carry you. If it doesn't serve you, let it go. And you will serve yourself perfectly, and in turn, you will serve the universe perfectly. This is what you came here for. And if you're living here right now, at this time, and if you're listening to me, then you know you came here with great purpose. If you need permission from somebody, in order to do so, I will offer you my own. But better yet, give yourself permission to be your true self that you came here to be. I love you all. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. It is in my highest excitement to speak to you in this way, to share these ideas, share these experiences, share these concepts, because my greatest desire is my reason for walking on this earth, is to help empower others to find the power within themselves that is their innate right to be. With great love to you, my thanks to Consciousness Evolution 2.0 Facebook group. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Thank you everyone on Blog Talk Radio, Enlightenment Evolution Network. Thank you Rob Goff here for putting this all together for us to share this experience, this time together. This has been the Consciousness Evolution Hour. I'm Philip Mollica, and I bid you all a fond and lovely good evening. Good night.